The story of two kings, Arvind and his brother Zariab. It is said that there was a king from the Sasanian dynasty who ruled the islands of India and China. He had two brave and wise sons. One was called Arvind and the other Zariab. Arvind, who was the elder brother, ruled the world with justice and courage, and Zariab was the king of Samarkand. Both lived happily in their kingdoms for 20 years. After that, Arvind missed his brother, so he ordered his minister to invite him to visit. The minister went and delivered the message. On the same day, Zariab told his men to prepare the journey. The next day, he gave his kingdom to his minister and left the city with his brother's minister. At night, Zariab remembered a jewel. He wanted to give it as a gift to his brother, but he had left it in the city. He went back to the city with two servants and entered the palace. There, he saw his wife sleeping with a servant. Zariab became very angry. He took his sword and killed them both. Then he went back to the army camp. In the morning, the army left the camp. All day, Zariab was very sad until he reached his brother's city. Arvind was happy to see his brother and talked to him kindly. But Zariab could not forget what he saw. He stayed quiet and sad. Arvind thought his brother was sad because he was far from home and family, so he did not ask him. Zariab was sitting sadly and looking at the garden. Suddenly, his brother's wife came into the garden with 20 beautiful servant girls and 20 black servants. They walked around and enjoyed themselves. Then they stopped near a pool and took off their clothes. The queen called out, "Masood." A strong black servant came. The queen hugged the man. Every servant went with one girl. Zariab saw what was happening and thought to himself, "My sadness is nothing compared to my brother's troubles. I should not be sad anymore." He stopped thinking about it and started enjoying food, drink, and sleep. When his brother returned from hunting, he saw that Zariab's pale face was now healthy and strong. Arvind was surprised and said, "Tell me, why were you weak and pale before, and now you look healthy and happy?" Zariab said, "I can tell you the reason for my sadness, but not the reason for my happiness." Then he told the story about his wife and the black servant and how he had killed them. Zariab had no choice but to tell the story of his brother's wife as well, the servant girls and the servants. Arvind said, "I trust the queen very much. I will not believe it until I see it with my own eyes." Zariab said, "Order a hunting trip for 10 days outside the city and show it as if we are going. When the soldiers are at the hunting place, come and see what your wife is doing." Arvind did as he was told. Then both brothers sat quietly and watched from the garden. Not long after, the queen, the servant girls, and the servants went into the garden and sat by the pool. Arvind saw with his own eyes what his brother had told him and said to Zariab, "After this, we cannot be kings." Broken and hopeless, the two brothers left the palace and walked through the desert. They traveled for several days and nights until they reached the shore of Oman. Under a tree near a spring, they rested for a while. By the sea, they saw a tall and strong giant appeared. He brought an iron chest from the sea. Arvind and Zariab got scared and climbed a tree. The giant went to the spring and opened the chest. Inside was a beautiful girl whom the demon had stolen on her wedding night. Even though the demon guarded her, she had secretly been with many men. The girl said, "On my wedding night, the giant took me away from my husband. Now the giant keeps me." Arvind and Zariab watched her from the tree. Both were scared at first, but then they came down. The girl showed them a bag full of 570 rings as proof. "Do you know what these rings are?" Both kings said no. She explained, "I was with many people and left one ring as a memory." You also gave me a ring as a memory, and I will keep the ring." Both kings were amazed to see this and hear the story about the giant and girl. They said, "The giant's story is more strange than ours, and her suffering is greater. This can teach us patience." Then they returned to their city. Zeriab chose to live alone, away from love and people. But Arvind treated the queen, the servant girls, and the servants very cruelly and killed his wife and servant girls. Every night he brought a young girl to his bed, and every morning he killed her. This continued for 3 years. The people were very sad. They took their daughters and left the city. Soon there were no girls left in the city. One day, King Arvind said to his minister, "Find a good girl for me." The minister searched everywhere but could not find any girl. He became worried and returned home, sad. At home, he had 2 daughters. One was Mira and the other Lydia. Mira was wise, smart, and clever. She knew a lot about poets, writers, clever people, and former kings. She said, "Let me go to the king. Either I will be killed, or I will survive and stop the suffering of other girls." The minister said, "It is not wise to send yourself to such danger. I am afraid something bad will happen to you," which happened to the former wife. What happened to the farmer's wife? The girl said, "What is the story of the farmer's wife?" The next story will be in the next video. Before we start another story, please subscribe our channel. Thank you for supporting us.